Tanzay, I'm Bryce Mercredi. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge that we are in the traditional unceded territory of the Queneesh Nation, and we're glad that they're sharing this land with them. I am Métis. I come from a long line of Métis traders, Hudson's Bay traders. I feel it's very important that we share our culture, items like this, like what I brought down, how not only the Métis people lived, but the indigenous people lived, how they utilized the animals. Nothing was wasted. It's something that a lot of kids don't realize, don't understand, or have seen. This is the way it was prior to what we have today. We'll start off with the sashes. It's made of wool about 3 meters long. Some are longer, tied at the waist. Women wear their sashes across their heart. You see many colors, different colors. All these colors represent the Métis. They symbolize the following. The red symbolizes the blood that was lost fighting for our freedoms and rights. The blue is the depth of our spirit. We know who we are and very proud of who we are. The green signifies fertility. Métis families were big. I had a cousin that was in a family of 17 kids in her family. So they're very big, very fertile. The white is our connectedness to the Creator. Also too, there are white sashes, and they are worn by medical people, nurses, doctors, medicine men and women. Yellow is our prosperity of our culture. And the black represents the dark period of our history that we went through, dispossession of our lands, etc. My very early years I spent in the bush, where my first language became Cree and then Chipewyan. And I spoke that quite fluently until I moved to Yellowknife and I started school and into a strictly English-speaking community. So I shouldn't say I've lost the language, it's just buried deeply in my brain and it has to be reawakened, which I'm slowly starting to do. This sash I am very, very proud of. It was presented to me by the Métis Nation of British Columbia and my peers, and it was presented to me for my service for 25 years of the Métis Nation and as a community leader. Now somebody asked me, what does the infinity symbol mean? Well, half of it represents the Europeans and the other half represents the First Nations people that lived here. And we are the result, the offspring of that. Normally called a prairie sash because the green represents the forest and the prairies. The gold represents the wheat fields, the white, the snow, the prairies, and the red, there's two meanings for this. One is, the red represents the Red River from where the Métis came from. Also too, it is the blood that has been shed for our freedoms and rights. They would wrap it around their middle section really tight. Really tight. So this would prevent any injury such as hernias. So you have to protect your middle. You wore this very tight. There was no stores. The Hudson's Bay Trading Post was the only place where you could get things like your needles, your axes, your ammunition, your traps, etc., and bolts of cloth. So of course they made their clothes with what was available. And animals were available. Utilized the moose, the bison that ran on the prairies. The bison was a walking refrigerator and clothing store. It supplied everything that they would need. Also for shelter. They make their teepees from the bison hides. They made their coats from the buffalo hides. This is made from a blanket, one blanket, that's Hudson's Bay blanket. It's all wool, heavy. What else you could use? One of these. Now, they wore these in the winter, 40, 50 below, minus, really cold. So if you're ever stuck out overnight somewhere, you clear an area, have your little fire going, and you could sleep in this. It would keep you warm all night. Kids nowadays don't have that. It's just mind-boggling for them to think that minus 40 and you played outside. Minus 40, I used to pull my baby brother in a toboggan and he would sleep outside for hours at minus 40. You know, so that's, if we were to do that today, you would be hauled in for child abuse. But that was life, you know, that was what you did. That's what my parents did. That's what my grandparents, that's how they lived. That was the life. It was just normal. My grandmother used to scrape and smoke moose hides for things like moccasins, muckluck slippers, jackets. This was brain tanned hide. Each animal had enough brains to tan one hide, to soften it. There's certain chemicals in the brain that would soften the leather, and then it would be smoked. You made a teepee, and you have a little smudge fire going, and smoking would give it this brown color. Something like this. These are mucklucks. Be used for going out to parties, celebrations. It's not something you would use to work in the bush or run dogs or anything like that. My mother made these. One of the last pairs she's made years ago. These are from my dad, for my dad, made by my grandmother. There's dyed porcupine quill work here. These are gauntlets. I have been recently with School District 71. They've established an Elders in Residence program in the schools. Ninaksola, we're called. And I have been in with the Queneesh School for the last 3 years. I've really enjoyed it. Being in, of course, this year was a little bit different with the COVID situation, but normally I would be in the class for half a day. And so this is a new way of doing things, being outdoors, which I've really enjoyed. This is a spring or early fall jacket. It's not something you would wear in 40 below or anything like that. This was presented to our community years ago by a woman who was from northern Manitoba and moved to the island and had no reason to wear it because of the climate. Métis were known for their beadwork. And my great aunt made these for my wife for our wedding. And I can imagine how much work has gone into this. So she put it under glass. A lot of the stuff here eventually will be under glass. Won't be, because it's just having it stored in a closet or anything like that is not. It's not right. It's out there to be displayed. But they weigh about 5 pounds each. This one here, you know, they utilized all parts of the animals. They didn't have a store that you can go and buy a purse or a wallet. So my grandmother made this. It's loon skin on moose hide with dyed porcupine quills. Now you see the difference in the color of the porcupine quills here. This is a little bit faded, but this is the actual color of them. So see the difference in the color? This has been exposed to the sun, so it's a bit faded. You had to have at least 6 to 10 cords of wood to last you the winter. And you needed wood all summer because that's how you cooked, was with wood, with fire. You didn't have a furnace or electric ranges or anything like that, and running water. That we had to go. It was year round. In the winter, you had to punch a hole in the ice, and then in order for the hole not to freeze completely solid, you put spruce boughs on top and then snow on top as an insulator, so that you'd have just a thin skin of ice to go through when you went down next day for your fresh water.